Hello, how are you on this lovely Monday? Are you well? I hope you're well. I'm just checking that I'm actually coming through on Instagram. Just bear with me 1 minute. I'm sure it's fine, but just checking. No, it's not. There we go. We're going to do some meditation. This isn't a class as such, it's a chance to meditate together, because that is pretty powerful. These meditations are part of the further emergence work I do. If you're curious about that, I'll explain about it when we're finished the meditation. Similarly, if you're an experienced meditator, if you're used to meditating, that's brilliant. Can you hang on a minute though while I explain why or what I do, just for the benefit of people who are new to meditation. Because I do these meditations on, normally I do them Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and then I only explain what I do on the Monday. So there's lots of different types of meditation. This is what I do. For me, it starts with why I would meditate. I'm trying to connect to a part of me that I connect to every night when I go to sleep. Not the dreaming bit, a bit after dreaming. So I'm sort of dreaming and then I drop out the bottom of dreaming into deep dreamless sleep, where I have no thoughts, no emotions, no feelings, no memories. I've got no body really, no bed, no bedroom, nothing. I don't even have me. I cease to exist, certainly in the way that I normally register I exist, which when you add that all up, that sounds awful. It sounds like death. Yet, I love going to sleep. And when I wake up in the morning, I feel refreshed. So some part of me knows that wherever I go, that it's a good place. And it's a rejuvenating place. So that's where I want to go when I meditate. I just want to do it consciously. So straight away, if you're new to meditation, don't try this lying down, because if you lie down, chances are you'll fall asleep. And if you don't fall asleep, chances are you'll battle sleep, both of which are very counter to what you're trying to do in meditation. So yeah, sit up. You don't have to sit in a lotus position or anything like that. I'm just sitting in a chair. If you're sitting in a chair, make sure it's not too comfortable. Like, don't sit in a big comfortable armchair. You'll just fall asleep. Probably. So as I said, there's no thoughts in this place, so I have to figure out a way of working with my mind. What I do is I just make a deal with my mind. I just say, can you just not think for the next 15 minutes while I meditate? Now, at this stage, my mind is on board for that. It's like, fine, okay, I've been doing this long enough. I know the story, I know the drill, that's fine. Having your mind on board is important. It's not so much of an issue at the beginning when you're just starting out, because it's new and interesting, and minds like new and interesting things, so you'll have no problems. It only becomes a problem when you're trying to maintain a long-term meditation practice. And if that is if you're having trouble with that, if you ask me a question, I'll see if I can answer it after we're finished. So my mind is on board. That's good. Next thing, stop thinking. Now, that is easier than it sounds. It's easy to stop. It's harder to maintain it, but it's easy to stop, because regardless of what I'm thinking about, which would be the content of my thoughts, the structure around that is always the same. The structure of my thoughts is always the same. It's always pictures and sound. So if I turn off the pictures and I turn off the sound, I'm not thinking. And as soon as I do that, I'm into the practice of meditation. Now, the practice of meditation runs parallel to the intention of my meditation. Now, as I said, the intention of my meditation is to go to this deep, still, profound, Zen-like, all those words they use to describe meditation? That place. That's the intention. Practice runs parallel with it and starts as soon as I stop thinking. And it generally will go, I'll turn off the pictures and I'll turn off the sound. I'll bring myself to not thinking. Then a little bit of time will pass and I'll notice that I'm thinking again. I'll go, oh, I'm thinking again. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound. Bring myself back to not thinking. Then a little bit of time will pass and I'll discover I'm thinking again. I go, oh, thinking again. turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking, and so on. Just continually doing that over and over. That's the practice of meditation. And it's good to know about thinking in relation to meditation, because it's very easy to get the misconception that in order to meditate correctly, you shouldn't be thinking at all, which isn't true, in my experience. These two go together, you know, the practice and the intention. They sort of do a little dance. They weave in and out. Sometimes you'll be very still and deep, and you know you can feel it in your body. Your nervous system starts to relax. Other times you'll be discovering that you're thinking. And both are powerful. They're just powerful in different ways, and it's not so obvious when you're discovering that you're thinking. Because when you're very deeply still, it's kind of obviously powerful. You can feel it in your body. When you're discovering that you're thinking, there's more of a tendency to add to the thinking by thinking about how many times you're discovering that you're thinking. And, you know, for your mind to kind of go, oh my God, I'm not doing this very well. I'm thinking a lot. Which is just another thought, really, you know. But the power in it is, if you are like me, the sort of things that you think about are all to do with you. So I'll be thinking, what am I going to do about that thing? And why did that person say that thing to me? And why did I say that to that person? And that kind of thing. Now, if I'm in the middle of one of those thoughts and I'm in the middle of meditation, and I go, oh, thinking again, turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Indirectly, what I'm saying to myself and what I'm demonstrating to myself is, you know that thought that you just had, the one that you thought was you and that you were it? Well, you just made that disappear. You just made it, you know, vanish. So you're obviously not that thought because you're still here. So you're not that thought. In fact, you're not any of your thoughts. You're something else. That's very powerful. And then the fact that you do that repeatedly is very powerful. So, try not to add to your thinking by thinking about how much you're thinking, because there's no right amount of times. It's not like, you know, the less times you have to bring yourself back from thinking, that means it's good meditation. You know, that's not the case. You could, because it changes day to day, hour to hour. You know, you could meditate in the morning and only have to bring yourself back from thinking a few times. And then you could meditate in the afternoon and you might have to bring yourself back from thinking 100 times, hundreds of times. And one is not better than the other. That's not the way it works. So the main thing is, the golden rule is, every time you discover that you're thinking, bring yourself back to not thinking. If you do that, you're doing great. Now, while all that is going on, while all that thinking, not thinking business is going on, I'm also becoming more conscious of my body and my breathing. And I'm letting go of tension in my body by becoming more conscious of it. So I've scanned my body from my head down to my feet and back up again very slowly, very gently. Anywhere I find tension, I let it go. And I use my out breath to let it go, because it's natural to just breathe it away. But then it's also a good way of remembering to breathe, or to become more conscious of my breathing, because sounds strange, but it's quite easy to forget to breathe or to hold your breath during meditation. So using the out breath to let tension go is a good way of remembering to breathe. Then the other thing that I do as I'm scanning my body is I'm spending a little bit more time, or I'm paying a little bit more attention to structures in my body that go transverse or go across my body. Because transverse structures operate a little bit like a log going across a stream. You know, it picks up all the twigs and the branches, and anything that comes down the river, it will pick it up. Except in my body, that's stress or tension. So I'm spending a little bit more time on my eyes. They're a transverse site. My jaw, my tongue, the base of my neck, my shoulder girdle, all my joints, they're all transverse sites. So my shoulders, elbows, wrists, fingers, my heart area, my respiratory diaphragm, all my intestines, my pelvic floor, my hips, my knees, my ankles, and my toes. Having a nice quiet room is really helpful when you start out in meditation, because when you one of the things that triggers thoughts is sound. And as soon as you close your eyes, your hearing amplifies. So the quieter the room, the easier it is to meditate. And then the other thing I do to help my mind have less things to think about is I set a timer for how long I'm going to meditate for. Now I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes, but I'd encourage you to set yours for 5 minutes and repeat it 3 times if you're just starting out, because 15 minutes is a long time if you're not used to it. And even with a timer, around the 7-minute mark, your mind is probably going to kick in. So 5 minutes, repeat that 3 times, and then work up to, stretch it out as you get more used to it. Okay, so off we go into the mystery. that's time. Open your eyes when you're ready. So as I said at the beginning, these meditations are part of the further emergence work I do. Further emergence is to do with growth, inner growth, growth in consciousness, growth in awareness. You could call it spiritual growth, that kind of growth. Because your body pretty much stops growing when you become an adult, but you keep growing on the inside. That doesn't stop. It continues for your whole life. And just like when you were a kid, you might have gone through periods of accelerated growth. They're called growth spurts. You go through the same on the inside. You go through inner growth spurts, and they continue on for the rest of your life. But the difference between inner growth spurts and growth spurts when you were a child is that when you were a child and you were going through a growth spurt and you went to your parents and said, "Oh, I've got growing pains, my legs are killing me," or whatever, your parents wouldn't have rushed you to hospital. They wouldn't have brought you to a doctor. They wouldn't have done anything. They probably would have just said, "That's terrible, but it's natural, and it'll pass. They're just growing pains." It's much harder to know that it's natural and it'll pass and it's just growing pains when you're going through an inner growth spurt, and you're 45 or you're 65 or you're 25. Much bigger space to feel like there's something wrong with you, this isn't natural, and you're broken in some way or another. So the overarching kind of focus of further emergence is to do with supporting growth, and then specifically inner growth spurts, those times when it can get very difficult. Growing can get very difficult. So there's a number of different ways that I support that whole kind of process, and these meditations are one of them, because the more familiar you are with your inner landscape, the easier it is to navigate these inner growth spurts, and it just makes inner growth easier in general. Then I do retreats every 2 weeks. Just had one on Saturday, and they are long. They're like 4 hours, and there's some longish meditations in them, like 3 longish meditations, and they're a chance to pull back from your life, kind of get a bit of perspective on it, hear other people talking about what they're going through in their inner growth spurts. And it helps with that feeling of isolation, which can be very common with inner growth spurts, because you can sort of almost overnight go from feeling like everybody understands you and you understand everybody to nobody gets me, I don't understand what's going on with other people. That's just one of the ways it can manifest. So the retreats are great for that, and if you're curious about them, you can look on the YouTube channel to get an idea, or listen to the podcast, and that'll give you an idea of what they're like as well. I do one-to-one work, further emergence support work with people, and that's a combination of talking and giving very specific feedback, because I've been through it myself many times, this whole process of further emergence. I've helped lots of people through it, and I've worked as a craniosacral therapist for many years, so I have skills to help with that, even remotely. So it's a combination of listening, giving very specific feedback for the very person's situation, and then doing some remote work with them as well behind the scenes to help their system harmonize it. And so that's the one-to-one work. Then there are some people who are just, I don't care about consciousness, I don't care about this spirituality stuff, I just want some answers. So I do work with people like that as well, under the banner of kind of life coaching, but it's really under the banner of further emergence. But sometimes life coaching is easier to, it's more palatable. If you're not, if you're not interested in consciousness and that kind of stuff, life coaching is more easy to digest. And then I've written books. I've written like 4 books all around the subject of further emergence. So if you're still with me, if you watched all the way to the end, chances are some part of you is going, yeah, there's something to this, something resonating with me here. So I'd encourage you to just let that part of you tell you what the next thing for you to do is, whether it's just to keep doing the meditations, to find out more about the retreats, or maybe come to a retreat, to get in touch for some one-to-one work or some life coaching, or read some books, or listen to the podcast, or watch some videos on YouTube, or none of the above. That part of you will know what the right thing for you to do is. this is actually going to be, I'm not going to be doing these meditations for 2 weeks because I'm doing a live event thing in the town where I live. So that's going to be every day. So I don't think I'll be unable to fit these in as well. So I'll be back in 2 weeks with more live meditation.